Hello, I am Vanessa Bruns. I am in the EMEA Google Ads Market Insights team. So I'm, working on market research for the whole region of Europe. I've been doing this job for 11 years now. And during the past 3 years, I have been managing a study that is called Smart Shopper across a very high number of European markets. And I would like to run you through the results for South Africa, Kenya, and Nigeria today. The study is about the changing shopping behavior. And what is really unique about that study is the fact that we have done the study before the pandemic hit. So we started it in 2019. And then we decided in 2020 to just repeat it because it is a unique possibility for us to be able to really understand the changing consumer behavior across a number of years. And during the pandemic, we have pre-pandemic data available, and we can see trends of consumers' purchase behavior across a number of markets and years. And the other thing that is unique about the study is its scope, because in 2022, we were actually able to run the study, the same set of questions and verticals across 32 different markets. So we have the possibility to compare consumer behavior across all of these markets. South Africa has been part of the study in all these years. So we have trended data for the purchase journeys of consumers in South Africa. And for the first time this year, we have also added Kenya and Nigeria to the survey. So we don't have trended data for those markets, but we do have first-time insights into how consumers in Nigeria and Kenya actually purchase and how they research. So Smart Shopper is an online survey, a 50-minute mobile-friendly survey that we send over to people who have done a purchase in the past couple of months. And we only ask about that past purchase during the survey. So we have really in-depth knowledge on a specific vertical that was questioned. The online population 18 plus is the sample base, and everyone who made a purchase in the included product category was included in the survey. The sample size was 300 people per vertical. So it adds up to around 1,600 people per market. So far to the background of the Smart Shopper study. I would now like you to present the key insights for these 3 African markets and to shed light on how consumer behavior has changed during the past years and what is new in Nigeria and Kenya. In those markets, we have decided to include the following categories into the survey. The first one is consumer electronics, so everything around home electronics, mobile devices, laptops, and computers. The second category was home and garden, like large home appliances, small appliances, and garden furniture. The third one is the fashion vertical, so everything related to clothing and fitness and sportswear, also footwear. And then we have 2 FMCG categories also in the survey, which is food and groceries and also beauty. Those categories are actually the same across all 32 markets. In a couple of markets, we do have more verticals in there, but for the African markets, these are the different verticals we have insights for. And most of the slides I'm going to show you are actually going to show you the data for each of the different verticals, so you can see the differences, because there are differences, especially for the long-term good verticals versus the FMCG verticals in regards to where people purchase and how they research for the products. What I'm going to talk about today is the following chapters. So we will first explore the purchase channel of each of the verticals. So where have people actually bought the past purchase? Did they go into stores? Did they buy it online? What do they generally prefer? The second chapter is around product discovery and research. What kind of sources did they use prior to the purchase to find the product, to research it, to find out more about price and availability? The third chapter is around loyalty. Do people in African markets stay to the same retailer or brand, or are they likely to switch? And the fourth chapter is around mobile in the customer journey. So do they rather use desktop computers or mobile devices? And if they use mobile devices, do they rather use apps or websites? So, chapter 1, how products were purchased across all verticals. We asked the consumers across the different African markets whether their behavior during the past years have changed, whether they now tend to buy more online or offline. And across all markets, they said that they are majorly purchasing more online now than they did a couple of years ago. This trend is the strongest actually in Nigeria, where 72% say that they now significantly buy more online, versus only 28% said now they buy more offline, which is interesting because there were a lot of restrictions in regards to shopping offline in the last couple of years, and now people are not really urgent in going back into stores. They still prefer to buy online. So when we look at the purchase behavior for the different verticals across the different African markets, we actually see that the values are very, very similar across markets. So even though we don't have trended data for Kenya and Nigeria, we see that the numbers for e-commerce are pretty high across verticals. So especially in Nigeria for home and garden, so furniture, and also fashion. And also FMCG is around at the same level as in South Africa for those other markets. Here we have prepared something that we call the ROPO matrix, so research, online, purchase, offline. And what this slide is actually meant to show you is that there is not one straight, preferred purchase journey, but that people are really very agnostic in terms of what kind of channel they choose for online purchase, and also offline purchase, online research, and offline research. We see a very diverse set of different purchase journeys. So some people, they prefer to research something offline before buying it online. Some do it the other way around. Some purchase journeys are purely online, and the minority of purchase journeys are purely offline, as you can see here. We asked our consumers what are actually the triggers that led to a specific purchase. So why did they buy a product? And these are the results per vertical. And what we see is that the most common reason for a consumer in South Africa to purchase a product around consumer electronics, home and garden, and fashion is that they just simply needed to replace an item that has broken. Around 1/3 of consumers bought a new product because they wanted something new or up to date. And as actually advertisement is quite a significant trigger for buying a product, because 16% in CE and 17% for furniture said they saw an advertisement and that's why they bought the product. Also, promotion plays quite a big role. And spontaneous purchases do not play as a big role as in other markets. Only 8% for CE said, I came across it spontaneously and bought it. So it was rather planned or seen on advertisement. For food and groceries, this is a little bit different, of course. Regular refill is the most important purchase trigger to buy food, and also beauty, and also replacement of items is a big purchase trigger. But also here we see that, having seen advertisement for any food product leads to really purchasing the product in 1/5 of every case. And also promotion in store is a big purchase trigger. 18% or 19% for beauty said that they are going to buy a product because of a promotion. I'm not going to show you the data for Kenya and Nigeria here, but it's actually very similar for all these markets. And when you look at the presentation afterwards, you can certainly find the stats for these markets as well. So now we come to the second chapter, where we talk about product discovery and research. So where did people actually research for the product that they then eventually bought? So on this slide, we asked consumers whether they in general prefer to buy online in blue, offline in yellow, or agnostic, so they are not set on a specific purchase channel in green. And what is prevalent across all markets, and it's very similar for all the different categories, is that people are not really set on a specific channel. Sometimes they like to buy online, sometimes they like to buy offline. They don't want to choose the same channel every time they purchase something. For South Africa, we have trended data, which is not on this slide, but from there we can see that the online channel has increased in relevancy, and also the agnostic channel. So really, those who still like to buy only offline have decreased quite a bit. Of course, that's a little bit different for the FMCG verticals, where people still prefer to go into shops nearby to buy their local food and their beauty products. But also there we see for South Africa that this has decreased. And actually more than 50% in all of these African markets now prefer to sometimes buy online and sometimes buy offline the FMCG products. What this means is omni-channel strategies for retailers are ever more important, and retailers really have to be thinking about strategies that both their online and offline presence are linked and play together in a good way. What are the main reasons of choosing either the online or offline channel? Actually, that's quite similar for all markets, for both online and offline. Convenience is the top driver to buy offline, and sometimes it's also the top driver to buy online. So if I'm, just in town, it might be easier to buy a product directly there. But sometimes when I don't want to go out, it's more convenient to buy online. Product delivery to my home is the second important driver for online purchase, which is kind of clear. And also it's sometimes, especially for Kenyan shoppers, it's easier to find a specific product because you have the whole wide range of all products that you can find online, versus in store, it might be limited. For offline purchase, the fact that I have the possibility, of course, to have the product right away after I bought it is one of the most important reasons for buying offline. And also really being able to touch and try out the product is also something that the online world cannot really offer. What we have noticed across all of EMEA and also in the African markets is that buyers, especially buying online, but also offline, I will get to that in a minute, have increasingly pain points while shopping online. So the shopping journey is not without complications. And we see that, the majority, actually 71% in South Africa and 82% in Nigeria, have had some sort of problem when they purchase the product online. So when we look at the reasons why people having online pain points, this is here an example for South Africa, we see that this has actually shifted a little bit during the past years. So while it was in 2020 and 21, majorly problems around the pandemic, like availability issues, delivery was too slow, independent product reviews were hard to find. This year, we see that price and inflation has become increasingly an issue for consumers across all categories, but especially for FMCG products. Like 28% actually said that the product has become more important. We really see a shift from one crisis, the pandemic, to a new one, the high inflation this year. In Kenya, we don't have trended data, but we also see here that actually the price inflation, the number one item here, product has become more expensive recently, is the most important online pain point. For food and groceries, 40% of Kenyan consumers said actually the product has become more expensive, and that's a problem for me. And the same in Nigeria, the numbers are even higher across all verticals. So there's, consumers really have issues with the recent inflation across all of EMEA. When shopping offline, the picture is a little bit different in South Africa, where only 50% have had a problem when they bought something in store, versus in Kenya and Nigeria, the numbers are quite high, with 80 and 81% of shoppers having an issue, and especially in the food and groceries vertical. And here we can already see that this is also mainly related to inflation. So product has become more expensive recently, has been an issue for offline purchase for 38% of South African buyers. And when we look into Kenya, this is the case for 61%. And in Nigeria, this is actually 55%. So a very high number of consumers struggle with the increased prices also for in-store purchases. Okay, I will now talk about product discovery and how consumers research before they purchase a product. What channels did they use, be it online or offline? And where did they actually then find the product? So starting out with the first awareness, we asked consumers, where did you first see the product that you were then going to buy? And what we see is that across markets, online touchpoints have actually increased in relevancy. We know for South Africa that there's a trend towards online channels where people have, become aware of the product for the first time. And for the other markets, we have only this year of data, but we see that the number is very high. The majority of Kenyan consumer electronic users, like 57%, have actually become aware via a search engine or some other website about the product before they bought it. Other awareness points like offline touch points play around 30% of consumers have actually been in contact through offline touch points, and first awareness through previous product experience plays an important role, of course, for food and groceries, and as well as beauty, because people tend to buy the same products they already know there, but it doesn't play a big role for the other long-term categories. When we look for online channels where people have actually had contact to before they purchased the product, we see that when we look at trended data for South Africa, we see that search engines have actually increased in relevancy across the different years. What we see on this slide is the data for the different markets, South Africa, Nigeria, and Kenya, for different website options. So retailer websites play an important role, especially in South Africa, but less so in Kenya and Nigeria. Social media is a significant touch point across all of different verticals in African markets. That's even higher than in some other European markets. So African people seem to use social media quite a lot before they buy products. And also online video about this topic has increased in relevancy for South Africa, and it also plays a big role, especially for beauty products, where you can see that around 1/3 of consumers have actually seen an online video before they bought a specific product. So that's really a significant touch point before purchase. When we zoom into the role of search engines, we can see that search engines were actually the main source to start the research across all of markets. In this example, we show South Africa here. And then when we asked, okay, which search engine did you actually use? In the majority of cases, it was Google. So for consumer electronics, 65% of all search engine usage was actually Google. It's a little bit lower for food and groceries, but the numbers are on average around at 50%. of Google usage in South Africa. In the other markets, Kenya and Nigeria, the numbers are very similar. I'm not going to show you the slides now, but the numbers, they do resemble the same trends as in South Africa. When we now look at the relevancy of advertisement in the purchase journey, the numbers in African markets are actually quite high compared to other European markets. So we asked them about, have you seen an ad before you made a purchase? And around 50% of our users around African markets said that they did. And what is also important to notice is that there are synergy effects. So online ad recall among shoppers who have used a search engine has been especially high in Kenya and Nigeria with 61 or 60%. And the online recall amongst shoppers who have used online video before buying a product is actually even higher with 66 or 65% in Kenya and Nigeria. So advertisement play an important role in the purchase journey and in the decision-making process of African users. When we asked the participants of the survey, what are the reasons for you to select a specific retailer or brand, these are the results for South Africa. The most important reason for choosing a retailer is that they offer actually a good range of products and that they are a high quality brand. But also what is an important factor here by 53% is the fact that they are a brand that the consumers trust. Also price, of course, in these times is a relevant trigger to select a specific retailer brand. 51% said that they are choosing a specific brand because it's competitively priced. Past experience with the brand is actually less important than the trust and the price and the quality of a brand. So that's important to know. People are willing to switch brands if they provide good values on other things. We also, for the first time this year, have asked some questions on privacy and transparency when selecting a retailer. And what we found here as an example for South Africa is that actually transparency on collection of personal data is very important for consumers in this African market. So 84% said that they prefer to buy from brands that are honest about what personal data they collect. These numbers are much higher than in other European markets. So privacy and security, also in the retail context, is very important in the African markets. And when we look at the other markets like Kenya, here you see that the data is actually even stronger. So the vast majority of people, for them, it's really important that brands are honest about the personal data. And also sharing information on how I browse in exchange for free services as a fair deal is quite high in Kenya. So 68% of consumers would say, yes, that's a fair deal. That's important for advertisers to know. In Nigeria, the data looks very similar to Kenya. So people are it's quite important for them that brands are honest about the data they share, 90%. And actually 62% said that they, in general, feel skeptical about the ways companies use their data in marketing. So retailers really have to be aware that people want good privacy experiences. They want to be able to trust a brand before they do a purchase. On the next chapter, I will talk about loyalty and how many consumers would like to stick to their preferred brand or retailer, and how many are open to try out new brands, and what's the reason for potentially switching a retailer. So what we see across all of African markets compared to other European markets is that the consumer's relationship to a retailer, where they did the last purchase for a product across all of different product verticals, was actually very strong. So the majority buys always at the same retailer if possible, or only from a small set of different retailers. They don't use a wide range of different brands and retailers. Only 4% said that they use a new retailer only when they don't have an alternative. These numbers, as I said, are quite higher than in other European markets. So people are really keen to stick to the retailers that they have found to be good for them. On this slide, we see the aggregated results for all of the different verticals. And you can see that the data differs a little bit across verticals. So loyalty is highest for those who buy beauty products. Probably that makes a lot of sense. And also for food and groceries, because you have your specific set of retailers that is nearby, and you generally buy at that same store every time. For fashion and consumer electronics, this is a little bit lower, and especially in Nigeria, the numbers are a little lower in terms of loyalty for those categories. So people are willing to try out more retailers for these verticals. That doesn't mean that product purchasers will not choose a different retailer ever. So these numbers here show the number of product purchasers who have made a recent purchase from a retailer or a platform or brand that they have never bought before, ever. And around 50% said that sometimes they try out new retailers. That's important to know because, if you're not yet in a relevant set for a consumer, there is the chance to get in there if you do the things right that are just presented, like being privacy safe, offer good quality, offer a good range of products, be trustworthy. When we ask them, when are you willing to try out a new brand or retailer? Those are the results. Here, an example for South Africa, but the other markets have very similar results. Currently, in those times of inflation, the number one reason was that it was actually cheaper, which is not a surprise. Also, that the product is available, which is not always the case for all retailers. And it was more convenient for me because I was just, nearby. I just found the website while I was cruising, and especially this year has become more relevant, a better quality of the product. So we will now come to the last chapter of this research, and this is the role of mobile in the customer journey. And here I was really, surprised being from Germany, where we have a lot of skepticals in terms of new technology, to see the data from the African markets, because it's overwhelming how many consumers are actually using their mobile device, also in the retail context, to research and to purchase products. This is really exceptionally high numbers when compared to other markets, especially Germany. Mobile devices are the one-go device for African shoppers. When we look at product research, so, when they did online research, did they do it on a desktop or on a mobile device? Especially in Nigeria, the numbers are overwhelming, almost like 90% across all of different categories. People did not use their computer, but they used their mobile device, which, of course, makes it ever more relevant for retailers to really have good apps and good mobile websites in place for the wide range of customers. What we also see is that it's rather Gen Z who are using those smartphones. Of course, in markets like Nigeria and Kenya, all age groups are using mobiles because the numbers are so high. But especially the young people, they don't ever use desktop computers anymore. So it's really, really important to get your online strategy right, omni-channel strategy right, and always including the viewability of mobile devices and really creating apps that work for a wide range of consumers. But not only for product research, also for online purchase, smartphones in African markets are used To a very high extent, especially again in Nigeria, with 82% of all online purchases have been done on mobile devices, and 62% in South Africa. And this is high across all different verticals, as you can see on the right, especially high for FMCG purchases, actually. And then we were asking, are they rather using mobile websites, or are they rather using apps? And here, the data is again a little bit different than other European markets, where more and more people have only now started to really use mobile devices. But in the African markets, this seems to have had a longer history. That means that more people have already come across apps. They have installed apps because it's just natural to use their mobile devices. In other European markets, we see much higher numbers of people using still websites because they have just started to use their mobile. They have not come around to install specific retailer apps. In South African market, we see that this is different. So 52% are already using an app when they purchase. And in Kenya, that's even 61%. What we have learned for the different African markets that we have surveyed this year in Smart Shopper is, on the one hand, that online as a research and also as a purchase channel has increased in relevancy. We can see that from data in South Africa, where we have trended data, that this has peaked actually last year, but it has not gone back to 2019 levels after the pandemic has gone away. So people are still really eager to use online channels. They have not really decided that they will always use online channels. So omni-channel strategies are really, really important. Also for product discovery and for researching a specific product before purchase, online remains relevant throughout the whole purchase journey. Search engines play an important role across all different verticals. We see from South African data that this has increased. Also, social media and online video play important roles. A lot of consumers have had contact to an advertisement before they bought a product. So really, an overarching strategy, digital advertising strategy is really important in those African markets. As I just said, mobile is really, really strong across all markets, especially in Kenya and Nigeria. So it's really crucial for advertisers to get their mobile strategy right. Also on sustainability, on the one hand, people are quite loyal in regards to the brands and retailers that they select when buying products over and over again, but they are eager to try out new brands if those brands offer a good price, if they offer good quality, if they offer a good range of products, and also if they offer good privacy and trust strategies. So thank you for the session. I hope all of these insights were usable for you. If you have any more questions on the content, you can always ask your account manager for more information. And we hope to see you at the next session. Goodbye.